Batteries power everything, don't they? You're probably watching this on a phone that's powered by a battery, and usually when people want to take a normal internal combustion engine car and put a battery into it, it takes years and years. Citroen took 6 months. The new EC3 is what we're driving today. Sadly, we only have about 45 minutes with the car, so this is going to be a small and quick video, a first glimpse, a first glance, a first look, a first feel of what the EC3 is all about. So let's get this straight out of the way. You're here to see what the specs on this are, right? Because after all, paper specs or specs on a, well, in this case, a battery operated phone screen is what really matters to a lot of people, especially with an EV. So let's get to the biggest one first. Range, 320 kilometers according to ARAI. I'm guessing a more realistic range figure would be about 200 if you drove normally and not like an absolutely crazy person. The battery pack is 29.2 kilowatt hour, and it's actually right here below the floor, or sort of in the floor, which means your ground clearance has dropped by 10 mm from 180 to 170 mm, which shouldn't be much of an issue. 170 mm is still a lot of ground clearance, but this is where the specs become a little less impressive. The electric motor is just 57 horsepower. 57. And 143 Newton meters of torque. Not a lot. And it's because of that, not a lot, that the 0 to 60 km per hour time, not 0 to 100, 0 to 60 km per hour time is just 6.8 seconds. And in comparison, the Tiago EV, which will be this car's biggest rival, is a full second faster at 5.7. A full second. And then the other one. This tops out at 107 kilometers per hour. Now I know legally 100 kilometers per hour on expressways is what you're supposed to be going, but still, that 107 reminds me of another car, the Nano. Slow car, that too. Overall though, the positive bit of all of this is that this battery pack in this car is DC powered or DC ready. So you can go from 10% to 80% on the battery in just 57 minutes, and you can do it back to back. Now, I would at this point sort of go around the car and tell you what the differences are, but there aren't any, apart from this little E-badge here and another E-badge at the back, and of course you get another charging door, or a charging door, because the fuel door at the back is a dummy. So, should we drive it now, quickly, for a little bit, and tell you what it feels like? Just sort of a first impression thing. Okay, so as you can obviously see, we aren't really driving this on a street or on a road, so it's very difficult for me to actually tell you how quick this feels or how brisk this feels as compared to other relative objects around us. But we are driving on a test track, and we have driven plenty of cars in the past on a test track, so we can get a fair assumption of how this car, the EC3, actually drives. Now, before I get to the EC3, let me remind you that the normal C3, which has 2 powertrain options, is actually a very, very nice car to drive. The engines are fantastic, ride quality is absolute benchmark level in that segment, and even the steering feels great. Pretty much as a mechanical package, it is one of the best cars in the segment, if not the best car in the segment. This isn't going to be that. The Tiago definitely outperforms this in terms of both range and in terms of overall driving experience as well on paper. But will that on paper translate to in-car performance? So I'm going to slow it down, say 30 kilometers an hour. I'm going to floor it and see if this feels brisk, but it sort of does. Now, it's not as quick as the EVs of the world now make out to be, but in a city, small car, so darting around traffic, yeah, this feels adequate. It feels average, to be honest. It doesn't stand out as compared to anything else in the segment, and honestly, this segment, the Tiago and the Tigor, if you sort of pile them on into one segment, they don't really stand out in terms of performance too. They're great packages, nothing stand out in terms of performance, not like the Nexon EV, for example, has. Now, overall, it still gets this great suspension balance, so it's still a comfy car. But then you start looking around and you still see that so many cost-cut measures which should have been added on to the EC3, even if it meant a slight or nominal increase in pricing, haven't been done so. So this little thing that sticks out is sort of adjust the mirrors, and the fact that the There are switches here for the rear power windows, and of course that little instrument cluster which reminds me of a Hero Honda Splendor is still in this car. But apart from that, as a package, in terms of space, for example, unchanged. Even though the floor is now slightly higher, and you do feel the floor be slightly higher, it's still a great package. But is it going to be good enough to take on the Tata Tiago EV? Well, we'll leave that verdict for another day and another video, because I honestly have very limited time with this car, and I've told you what my initial impressions have been. Initial impressions only. Will this be better on the street? I think it will be. When you get a sort of sense of how things are around you, I think it might be slightly more impressive. For now, this, I'm guessing, is going to be very aggressively priced. But still, there are some things missing, some glaring omissions. Like that key, for example. I think this is the first EV that I've driven in about a decade or so, maybe even more, that has a physical key to start the car and not a start button. It's stuff like this that might irk off an EV buyer, because if you are an EV buyer, you are sort of the cutting edge of the mobility world, aren't you? Well, that's all for now. I know this has been a very quick, short video, but we've had just a quick, short amount of time with the car. So there's no point going into complete detail of how it drives. This is an initial impression. We will bring you a more detailed impression very soon. But for now, tell me what you think of the Citroen eC3. I'm a bit sort of half and half impressed by the package as I am with the C3, but then powertrain has been just slightly underwhelming, which isn't the case in the normal C3s. And of course, you've got all these cost-cutting bits which I think should have been replaced with better stuff. See you soon. Bigger video of this coming very soon. Till then, leave your opinions in the comments below.